Hi, this is Mackenzie from myphotolesson.com and the Tominator. In today's lesson, Tom will be speaking about basic lighting and metering, part 2, key light, fill light.
In basic lighting and metering, part 1, we worked on lighting an object, so we had light side against dark side against light side, so we could separate the object. Basic lighting and metering, part 2, we're going to do the same thing, except for now we're going to close down the dynamic range of the object. We're going to make sure that the light side and the dark side are close enough together in terms of dynamic range so we can capture them both on film. So what I'll do is I'll position my objects so I have light against dark and dark against light against dark, dark against light, as I did before. Even though we lit it with light against dark, dark against light, meaning the light side against something dark and the dark side against something light, there's no digital capture device or film that's going to be able to capture the dynamic range of both the highlights and the shadows at the same time, unless we incorporate another light, a fill light, that will illuminate the shadows without jeopardizing the integrity of the key light or the direction of the key light. That's what we're going to talk about next. In most setups, we have a key light. The purpose of the key light is to give direction. In this case, the key light is giving directions to the pairs. In order to do this, we have to establish one other line. There's an imaginary line that goes down the middle of the set. The middle of the set line is called an axis. When we put in the fill light, we can't cross the axis. We have to keep the fill light on axis or as close to axis as possible. If we cross the axis with the fill light, it also gives direction and becomes another key light. We never light a picture with two key lights. Why? There's only one sun, there should only be one key light. So again, the key light gives direction. A fill light will illuminate the shadows, but it won't have its own direction. So we'll try to keep it as close to on axis as possible. The key light has direction. The fill light, because it's on axis, on line with the camera, has no direction. Even with that, I want to make the shadows from the fill light as non-noticeable as possible. So I'm going to put them through a little diffuser. That will soften my shadows, but I'm going to keep it on line with the axis as much as possible.
Another question that pops up from time to time is, well, can I use a fill card? I hear people just use fill cards. Well, fill cards are fine in certain situations, but a fill card's not going to illuminate all your subject evenly, and you can't turn up the intensity of a fill card. Plus, unless you're keying from directly back, it's hard to keep a fill card exactly on axis, and you're going to create a core shadow.
Metering on this is a little different than basic lighting and metering on the first video. Basic lighting and metering, I didn't have a fill light. That means my dynamic range from my light to my dark on my white object was too big. So I placed a white, meaning I made sure that my white exposure was accurate. I didn't care where my black was going to go because I wasn't going to be able to capture it on my digital device or my film. Here I have a fill light. That means my range is within capture. So this time an incident reading will work fine. I can go ahead and make sure my dome is towards my light and capturing a piece of my key light and a piece of my film light, and just do an incident reading and it'll work fine. Don't forget to add your bellows factor. In this case, I'm working with a 6-inch lens. I have 8 inches of bellows. That's a one-stop bellows factor. If you want to know how to calculate bellows factor, go to myphotolesson.com or just watch Basic Lighting and Metering 1. It'll tell you how to calculate bellows factor. Again, an incident reading will work. I'm going to point the dome straight to my lens. I'm going to capture the same amount of fill light as key light, just like my objects are. I'm duplicating the light on my dome as I am on my objects. Take the reading and I'm good to go.
Students ask, okay, so how much fill do I use? Well, you need enough fill to illuminate the shadows, but not enough to take away the direction of the key light. And I will say this, if you have the same amount of key and fill hitting the subject, then you'll have a 2-to-1 ratio. But I'm not a big fan of ratios or multiple point source meter readings in order to figure out what your light's doing. I'm a bigger fan of training your eyes to get the effect you want. You wouldn't ask a professional golfer how hard you hit the putt. And you wouldn't ask a rock and roll musician what does your guitar sound like when it's in tune. After all, we're artists, not mathematicians. In this rustic still life by photographer Sharon Analdi, she's going for a sunset mood with a lot of drama. There's a lot of depth to this picture, but there's also a lot of detail on the shadow side of all our objects. This is achieved by using a fill on axis. We can barely see the fill, but it's there, as we can see in the production stills. A well-placed fill doesn't mean that the lighting is going to be flat or boring or lacking drama. It just means you're going to have detail throughout the image.
You'll see the key light coming in from the side giving direction to our subject. You'll see a scrim or a diffuser on axis. That means on the center line of the picture, and our fill light slightly on the same side, or at least not crossing the axis of the key light. That way the shadow from the fill light will just hide inside the shadow from the key light. We'll illuminate the shadows, but we won't create a new direction. Therefore, the fill light will be a fill and not another key.
This is the Tominator saying thanks for watching. If you have any questions about key fill, studio lighting, large format cameras, inverse square law, bellows factor, or anything else, it's all on the website myphotolesson.com. I hope you look for our next video, which will be Shine Fluid Selective Focus.